Hi everyone, I'm your host Diva Danielle, and this is Community Link AZ. Thank you for joining the show. This is the internet show that's a resource for you to people, products, and services in your own backyard you might not even know of. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. Each week, I'll introduce you to someone who is helping to make a positive difference in the community. We're going to have some fun, learn something new, and connect in a positive way. Let's start the show. Hi and welcome. I'm your host Diva Danielle, and this is Community Link AZ. I'm so excited because I got another fantastic guest for you, a member of the community who's doing her part to make a difference in the lives of others in a positive way going forward. This is Jessica Wells, and she is an oncology social worker with the Ironwood Cancer Center, and we have a little something in common. But before we get to that, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and extremely humbled that you thought of me to be on the show. So thank you.
No, this is great. The work you do, people need to know about it because you provide a resource.
Yes.
And a lot of people, when you think of a social worker, sometimes people think negative. They think they have to be,
people
right?
think negative. Yeah.
They think they have to be at their lowest low in order to need a social worker, but that's not true.
Not at all.
So give us some insight on the work you do and just some of the benefits that come along with utilizing the services that you provide as a social worker.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest things that we do as an oncology social worker is adjustment to the disease, right? For most patients, you get a diagnosis of cancer and it's like a big stop. It's been hit, your world's been thrown into turmoil, and it's just kind of that, what do I do next? And all of the what ifs start coming up. People start Googling things and going down the rabbit hole. So as social workers, one of the things we're able to do is financial support. Most people have not saved for a medical emergency. And cancer treatment is extremely expensive. So there are a lot of financial, nonprofit organizations in the community that will provide financial assistance for cancer patients. So they don't necessarily pay co-pays. So you would apply to have like your rent or mortgage paid or utility assistance or some other household bill to then utilize those free funds towards the cancer treatment. So financial resources, of course, emotional, mental support. We do counseling, a myriad of support groups, whether it's diagnosis specific. We do a lot of virtual classes, yoga, tai chi, meditation, just things to kind of help with the whole body wellness. It's great that you have the doctors that are treating the physical body, but I think it's equally important to be treating like the soul, the spirit, the mind in conjunction.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because a lot of people, they just think of that physical. Once you get this disease, how do I take care of this disease? But everything else goes to the wayside. And your mind, your spirit, your soul, your body, and your outlook going forward has to be nurtured and taken care of.
Absolutely.
And I love that you have the yoga, the tai chi, and all of those things because it gives people a release.
Yes, it does, and it allows them an opportunity to just not think about things. So I hear that a lot from my patients where a lot of the conversations with friends and family become, oh, what did the doctor say? How was your appointment? What are the labs? What are the scans? So on and so forth. And it's not truly that, hey Diva, how are you? Like, how's your soul? How are you feeling? It's the, well, how are you? How's chemo? How's this? How's that? So I really think that there is a beauty to the patients just being able to meditate and let loose, go to yoga, tai chi, and build a community with other patients and other survivors that helps them feel normal and know that they're not alone and they're not just out on this island by themselves. So it's great. It really, really is.
You're inundated, so how do you build that friendship and then just make it another extension of help for you going forward?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. At Ironwood, the majority of our patients are going through chemotherapy. They have a chemo teach. So at that time, they're provided with information regarding the social worker, the resources and supports that we're able to offer. My business card is in all of the offices, and so prior to COVID, what I would do, I would go around the chemo room and just pass on my business card and introduce myself. Hey, I'm the social worker, here's what I can help with. And 9 out of 10 times people are like, I didn't even know there was a social worker. You can help with transportation, you can help with this, you can help with that. And I'm like, yes, call me, you know? So a lot of times it's that, or their physician or a nurse saying, hey, they could really use additional support. Or sometimes it's a patient who has a friend who's in healthcare that's a nurse. It's like, where's the social worker? So that's typically how we do it. So I say whenever you're diagnosed, or if you know somebody who's diagnosed, ask about the social worker. Do you have one? How can I get in contact with them? Can I contact them directly, or can they contact me? Because I think it is such a key component of the care, the supportive services for it.
I love the fact that you said that you go around. Jessica is the type that's very friendly, outgoing. So I love that. You go around to the different, because I'm telling you, you can get in a bubble and feel like you are alone and this disease has attacked you. And people are still asking the question once they do get diagnosed, why me? And they're trying to figure out, what did they do to deserve this? And it mentally plays on their psyche. So for you to go up and introduce yourself, give out your card, you're extending your hand and you're making them feel like you're not alone, I've got you and I'm here for you.
Right.
And this is good stuff. It's a resource. So if you know someone who has just been diagnosed with cancer, it's a horrible disease, but there is help out there.
Yes.
People like Jessica Wells. And tell us what office and what part of the valley you're located in.
So I cover our East Valley offices. So that's Chandler, Chandler 2, Gilbert, Mesa Arbor, and Dobson.
Ooh, you got a lot on your hands.
Yes, so 5 offices, yes.
That's very cool. Well, let's get into something a little bit different. We talked about the work you do, the things you provide. You also are someone who was affected by cancer.
Yes.
If you would like to open up and share a little bit about your cancer diagnosis, but also the thing I want to know, because as women, when you are diagnosed with cancer, especially women who have breast cancer, it can strip away you feeling like a complete woman.
Absolutely.
Especially if they've had a mastectomy.
Yes.
So, going forward, I just want to know a little bit about your cancer diagnosis, your journey, how you're feeling and doing, and then also, how do you keep that sexy, girl? How do you keep that femininity? How do you feel good about being a woman, even though you're dealing with this horrible disease? And there's so many different side effects, medications, and things that can just weigh you down, but you still got to step out every once in a while. And I like the way she stepped out today. I have to tell you, the red lips are popping. The red lips are popping.
No, so I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 26. Then I'd have like a lump on the side of my neck. Doctors were just like, oh, when you're sick, lymph nodes swell. And so finally one day, like, it swelled up a little bit more. My mom was telling me, she's like, yeah, you should probably kind of get that checked out. So diagnosed stage 3, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Probably worst timing. I was in my master's program. I was working full time. So work full time, school full time, and I had an internship. So I was just kind of like, I do not have time for this. Not at all, not at all. But here I am 10 years later in remission. I went through 6 months of chemotherapy, a month of radiation, and things have been good. I've had some health challenges and health scares that have kind of popped up the last year. But doing good overall. Just trying to be, the best version of myself that I can be. I think when you're diagnosed with cancer, it changes your priorities. Where things that you thought were just so important, you're like, all right.
The famous saying, you're like, bye, Felicia.
Right, you literally don't care anymore. And it's funny to watch other people where they're falling and dying on their sword about something, and you're like,
yeah, dealing with my cancer.
Right, like I'll be over here figuring that out while we're going to do that. So it's like, I feel like it's almost like a second chance of life and walking into my purpose. I was diagnosed and treated at Ireland, but at that time they didn't have social workers. So there are no support groups. There is no one to tell you about financial assistance. There is no support for the caregivers. There's literally nothing.
So they've come a long way.
A long way.
And I hate to say this, but it was almost like a blessing in disguise you getting this cancer. Look what you've done.
Absolutely.
And the work that you've been able to do as their social worker.
And it's so funny because in my master's program, I was taking a class called The Role of the Oncology Social Worker. And it was the class that I would go to after chemo. So I would go to chemo in the morning, go home, take a nap, go to class for like 3 hours. And they're talking about, in oncology centers, there's social workers and they do this and they do this. And I'm taking notes and I'm like, no, they don't. This is so my next appointment, I go to my doctor and I'm like, yeah, so he's like examining me. And like, they said there's supposed to be a social worker here and there isn't one. Where are they at? And he's was like, okay, well, one day I'm gonna come and be a social worker here. And he was just kind of like, oh, okay, I think he just thought, okay, okay, here this girl is.
But you created your own job.
Well, luckily, I didn't necessarily create it. So years later, you know, I'm still looking, how can I give back? I felt like my life has been saved. This place has saved my life. How can I give back? So I'm randomly doing a Google search, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a social work position in Ireland. That's what I was going to say.
It was like, oh.
Yes, and I was like, and it was a random day that like I had my resume like in my email on my phone, and was just like applying now, boom, send, and it was like that job is mine.
See?
Like it's mine. And so went and got interviewed by Kelly Keeley and was hired on the spot. And here I am in my dream job, and it just being able to sit present with people and truly know what they're going through and know what they're talking about when they talk about how they hate having to do the labs or the scans or having the report access for those types of things. I get it. I truly get it. So it's literally, I don't know, a dream come true. Someone had told me years ago, oh, you're going to be a social worker with oncology patients. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But yet here I am, and it's been amazing.
So good. So how do you keep that sexy going, girl? Don't get away from it. You got to answer that question.
It's a struggle. You know, when I was going through chemotherapy, I gained like 65 pounds.
Yes.
65 pounds in 6 months.
It's all the steroids and the medication.
The steroids, yes. And I had no idea I was even getting a steroid, because I think the very first day of chemo, I'm like emotionally just crying, signing consents. And like weeks later, I'm like, what's this you guys hate every day? Like every time before I get chemo, they're like, oh, it's a steroid. I'm like, wait, what? I'm gaining so much weight. And he was like, no, that's good, you know, weight gain is, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's not.
Because the doctor wants to see you gain weight, because that's a sign that your
Yes.
body's responding to the medication.
Yes.
You're getting better.
Because the one thing I thought was, and it's so funny to admit this, I'm like, oh, okay, well if I have cancer, I'll lose weight, boom. Okay, that'll be like the silver lining. So when I ballooned, I was like,
Wait a
okay,
minute.
universe, like chill out. So that was really, really hard. And I remember I would talk about it with friends, like, you guys have gained so much weight. And you would get the feedback of, but at least you're alive.
Yeah.
And at least you don't have cancer anymore. And it's like, but I also kind of look like a whale, maybe. I don't know. Like yes, yay,
Oh
so
my
grateful
goodness,
for no
yeah.
cancer. But like, could I maybe?
Can I lose? Yeah,
Like
can I just
lose?
feel good and look a little
Just
nicer?
a little.
Like, you know, a few pounds off would be nice.
Yeah,
It's a beast. You're juggling a lot. It takes
is.
over.
And so I remember asking the doctor, like, so is there like a pill you give me so it just falls off? And he's like, no, just diet and exercise. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was hard, and I struggled with that at first, trying to get it off. And I don't even know what it was. I think one day I just had an aha moment where I was like, I'm not buying bigger clothes anymore. Like, I'm tired of doing that. And so I started working out and doing boot camp like 5 days a week, and just watching what I was eating, and I dropped like 55 pounds. I mean, COVID-19, I probably gained, you know, a few more days. But, you know, I'm just trying to keep it all together. So
It's a lot.
lots of changes.
It is. But I appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh,
Again,
it's my pleasure.
this is so nice. See, this is what I love about the show. It makes you feel good. Again, this is Jessica Wells. She is in the East Valley, an oncologist social worker with Ironwood Cancer Center. Great insight and information. I appreciate you opening up and sharing your story. And don't worry, next week is going to be just as good. I don't know if we can top Jessica though. She good. And I'll have another episode for you. I'm your host, Diva Danielle. This is Community Link AZ. Thanks for watching the show, and I'll catch you next week.